My name's John Waterhouse. Oh, God, it's good to be home. I am so grateful to be here. Like I said, July was a long month. This is the right place to be right now. So let's see what I want to share with you. Back from Asilomar, Barbara gave you a wonderful piece of that. I want to share with you my favorite story from Asilomar. It's about a 5-year-old. 5-year-old who's been invited to be in a family wedding. And he's taken this very serious. They get him a rented tuxedo. He's got the, the bow tie and the jacket. And he's, normally he's a regular kid. He's going to go out there and rough around, but not this day. He's in a wedding. So he avoids the mud puddles and running around outside because he's got patent shoes on. And he's going to be in the wedding. So the wedding time arrives and they're at the sanctuary and the processional has begun and it's his turn. The person that's controlling things at the back of the sanctuary has him right there and she says, "Go." And he steps out into the room down that center aisle and he comes to the first row of chairs and he turns to the people on his right and goes, "Ah!" Takes another step, turns to the people to his left and goes, "Ah!" People are going, "What?" But then eventually they do what you did. They start laughing because he keeps it up all the way down the aisle. He gets to the end of the aisle and his father, who is also in the wedding party, is standing on one side. And he goes over and he clings to his father's leg. And his father says, "That was great, buddy. What were you doing?" He looked up at his daddy and said, "I was being the ring bearer." Interpretation is everything. It was wonderful to be in Asilomar. I don't know if you've heard, but the organization has canceled their contract with Asilomar next year. This was the 60th year in a row of one or both of the organizations being at Asilomar in the summer, consistently for 60 years. And we went through some loss around that. I personally went through some loss around that. I've gone 14 years in a row. But it occurred to me as I was processing this that the first year we were at Asheville was 1953, the year that Barbara and I were born. In fact, we were born in the summer. So obviously we showed up to go to Asheville. And Dr. Holmes made his transition in 1960. So he only went 7 years. Oh, and if it's good enough for Dr. Holmes to have only gone 7 years, those of us that have gone whatever length, it's got to be okay. Now, we may go back someday, but right now there's no plan for that. So there's this element of change that's kind of going. So everybody was a poignant experience of being at Asilomar this year, and it meant a lot to us. So that's my Asilomar story. What I want to share with you this morning is really kind of this personal journey that I've been on for the last couple of months. Not the traveling journey. I've been doing all of that, and that has been wonderful and delightful for me to connect with so many people around the country. And as Barbara mentioned, in a couple of days I'm going out of the country. I'm going to Geneva for the European Science of Mind Conference, and that's going to be wonderful as well. The personal journey that I'm on has to do with the fact that there are some folks that I've created into my life who are highly critical of my handling my job as president of our organization. That's life, right? People, you're going to have critics from time to time. Well, there's this thing about ministers in our movement, and I heard it when I was at the International New Thought Alliance conference several weeks ago. One of the ministers spoke so succinctly to this. He said, minister gets up on Sunday morning and gives this message, gives the best message that they can give in that moment, goes and stands in a receiving line. All these people say, "Oh, God, I love your message. You were talking to me. That was so great." And one person says, "Well, that wasn't very good, what you said today." So who does the minister take home to bed? One person that said it wasn't good enough. Going and over and over and over. Well, I got a whole group of people doing that with me right now. So that's been my process. And I have to tell you, in my career, I have not placed the idea of forgiveness, which is the logical thing to do, right? Forgive them, move on. I have not placed that as a high spiritual standard in my life. I actually did a little research. I went back. I had a computer crash in 2000. So I lost everything that was before that. But since 2000, I have all of my messages, about 400 messages that I've given on Sunday mornings. I only mentioned forgiveness, or the word forgive, in 16 of them. Not a high priority for me. And I've kind of been cavalier about it. I've said, well, the thing about forgiveness is that if you don't blame people, there's nothing to ever forgive. So don't blame people. I'm finding that is not as easy as it used to be. Yeah, so this has been a real process for me of having criticism and judgment square in my face. Now, but what you have to do when you look at this, it's all happening here, right? It's all happening here. This is a reflection of my consciousness, so what's happening here? And I've kind of looked at my life over the last few years, and there have been times when I have been righteously indignant. When I pointed the finger at other people and said, what you're doing is out of principle. And thinking that I'm doing this lovely thing, I was blaming. I was criticizing. And recognizing that in me, I've had to kind of reassess how I live my life and look at that. Got on the phone with someone that I was heavily critical of several years ago. The only time I've ever known him to be speechless, when I told him this and asked for his forgiveness, he said, I don't know what to say. But he said something to me that was powerful. He said, back then, you were the enemy. I was the enemy. Never perceived myself as being the enemy, but there it was. So we had a very healing, cleansing conversation. That was good. Didn't stop my critics. Okay? I need a strategy here. Well, you know how life will give you stuff that's going to help make it work, right? Edwin Gaines, who we all know and love. Let's see a picture of Edwin for anybody that may not remember. There she is. Sent me her most recent draft of her newest book. And her newest book is entitled, I Choose to Forgive. Well, if you're going to endorse a book, which is why she sent it to me, you got to read the book. So I learned some things. And I thought I'd share a little piece. You're really getting a scoop here because this isn't published yet. These are some of Edwin's words. Forgiving someone does not mean that we approve or sanction what they did. Right on. It just means we don't allow their actions to run our lives or control our emotions. Okay, I'm in. There comes a point where, if we truly love ourselves, we can say, enough is enough. I'm in. I'm all for this. I love myself too much to allow anyone to treat me this way. No one has the right to treat me unkindly. I deserve respect and will not hang out with people who do not know how to behave. Boy, she's got me here. But I still have to forgive them. Huh? And then she says a breakthrough point came when she read the biblical passage in Matthew 18 that says, you have to forgive 70 times 7. 70 times 7? So she said she kept reading. She was probably looking for a loophole. But not finding a way out, she took the passage literally, and she decided to do this. And so what she did was, every morning she wrote a forgiveness statement 35 times. She wrote the same statement that night 35 times. And she did that for 7 days. That would be 70 times 7. Great. Okay, 7 days I can do that. Her first statement was, I, Edwin, forgive myself completely. Wait a minute. They did it. I, Edwin, forgive myself completely. Okay. So I have begun that process. I figured 7 days, right? I can do that. And she says that after she wrote that, the next week, she wrote, I, Edwin, forgive, fill in the blank, completely. Oh, wait a minute. She was talking about one person. I've got like 8. That's going to take months. Yay. I have to tell you, when I started this process, stuff came up. not as clean as I would like to be. I have some work to do. I have some stuff to forgive myself for. I really do. I have to clean that up. How could I ask anyone else to clean their act up if I'm not willing to clean mine up? So that's what's been kind of on my mind around Edwene, and I love Edwene, and I'm going to listen to her ideas around that and see what I can do around that. It was Nelson Mandela who said, resentment is like drinking poison and hoping it will kill your enemies. I never thought of myself as a resentful person. I got an email this week, and it said, it was a group email, it wasn't just to me. It said, I resent the email that talks about such and such's mother dying. And I'm thinking, why did they resent this email? I had to read it 3 times before I realized it said, I resent the email. What's on my mind? Clearly something's going on and I need a context here. I need to do my work. I need to forgive myself. I need to forgive these beloveds who are absolutely feeling justified in how they feel about me. I need to clean this up. I need a context for this to make this work. Because this seems like a big job to me. So at Selmar, I got my context. Our keynote speaker, a man named Azim Khamisa. Ever heard of him? He was the Spiritual Living Hero of the Year in 2012. He has a compelling story. International banker, very successful. Had his marriage end, but has 2 lovely children. And his son, Tazik, lives in Seattle with his mother, but moved down to San Diego to go to San Diego State. Azim is very busy in his work, but Azim has moved down there. He's going to school and has a part-time job delivering pizzas. 20 years old, beautiful young man, great plans, wants to be a journalist with National Geographic because he loves nature. Got a great life ahead of him. One night he's delivering pizzas in a neighborhood near the campus. He goes to deliver and no one ordered the pizza. When he goes back to his car, he's accosted by 3 14-year-olds and 1 18-year-old. It's a gang. And they are there to do the thing they can do. One of the 14-year-olds put a bullet in him and killed him. Being a father, I cannot understand that. And Azim couldn't understand it. How could that be? How could someone just kill my beautiful son? He had to call Tariq's mother in Seattle on the phone and tell her that their son had been killed. I can't imagine the pain of that. He said he was a mess for months, that he just barely was hanging on every day. Was brutal to get out of bed and do anything. No sense to it, no rhyme or reason. And then the story began to unfold. The young man that pulled that trigger, and the other 3 were all arrested. They found him. They arrested him. There was no trial. He pled guilty. This is a picture of the young man that shot Tariq. 14-year-old, angry child of a broken family, living with his grandparents, got into a gang, and this was his initiation. So he got 25 years to life as an adult at the age of 14, first time in the state of California. He's still in prison. But a lot has happened since that day. One thing that happened was the grandfather that Tony lived with made a contact with Azim. That's on the next slide. Here they are. Ples Felix is Tony's grandfather. He asked for Azim's forgiveness. And Azim realized that his son could not have died for no purpose. So these two men started a foundation, the Azim Khamisa Foundation, to stop youth violence. They have done powerful work in partnership. Powerful work in partnership. All based on forgiveness. They go into high schools, they go into schools all over the country, they speak to groups all over the world talking about how we can do this better, how our young people can do better. Azim has been, it took him 5 years, but in 1999 he met Tony in prison and they talked. And Azim told him he forgave him. If that man can forgive someone for murdering his son, what can we do? I pray none of us are ever asked to do that. And what's happened since is Tony has transformed. Azim says he's a monk, that he reads 5 books a month, that he prays, that he's centered. And Azim says as soon as he's released from prison, whatever that is, he has a job with the foundation, speaking to young people about what happened and how they should avoid those kinds of experiences in their lives at all costs. So amazingly, even with this incredible tragedy, this extraordinary experience, something wonderful is emerging. So I should be freaked out because a few people don't like the way I'm being president. Oh, give me a break. I'll do my forgiveness work. I will. I'll mean it to the depths of my being. I will open my heart to each one of them. I will see them as their divine gift they are to me, for me to get my act together. Because I'm sure that in the midst of all their criticism, there's a truth that I need to know. And I will find it. I will work it. And I will make it work for me. And if it works for me, I guess it's going to work for you. And if it works for you, it's going to work for our movement. And if it works for all of us, then it's worth the path, as painful as it may be. I love being up on the mountaintop. I love those happy moments that we sung of just a few moments ago. I love that experience. But I don't really get the meat of life from there. I seem to get that in the briars with some pain. That's where I seem to learn the things that make being on the mountaintop so wonderful. I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to do the forgiveness work. I'm willing to get off this high horse that says there's nothing to forgive, because apparently there is. There's work to do, and it's an inside job, and I'm going to keep at it. So I know this is kind of a heavy kind of message to you today, but it's where I am. It's what's working in my life. And I'm going to embrace it and be grateful for it. And let that come forward as the thing that I need to do in the world. So thank you, Azim Khamisa. Thank you, Ples Felix, and all the people that are doing extraordinary work around forgiveness. Thank you, Edwin Gaines, for teaching me how to do that. Thank you, Barbara, for staying by my side when I get lost in it. Thank you to my practitioner for knowing the truth when I forget. Thank you for life, for each day that I get to wake up and live a joyous, wonderful life. Even when some of it's in the briars, I can do this. So I invite you today to look at where maybe a little forgiveness may be in order in your life. Or maybe there's someone, something that you're not fully settled on. Could you do that work? Could you do that work 70 times 7 to know with absolute certainty that God's in the midst of all of it, even the hard parts, so that we can continue doing what we're here to do, to creating a better world for everyone. That's our calling. Let's do it together. I love you so much.